Greetings, middle school jazz saxophonists, and welcome to the 2020 Jazz Educators of Iowa Honor Combo Day Virtual Edition. My name is Ryan Meyer, and I teach at Harlan Community Middle School at Harlan, Iowa. And for our master class today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into learning our major scales and learning about scale degrees and ways to practice them in a jazz manner, and then how we can utilize our knowledge of major scales to figure out some of our other more common scales that we use in jazz, like our Mixolydian, our Dorian. And then my third part of it is going to be how we can take that knowledge and apply it to a B-flat blues tune. So how you could maybe create your own practice sheet at home and learning your scales and arpeggios that correlate with a B-flat blues chart. So to get started today, if you have your handout at home, I want you to pull out your circle of fifths sheet. If you don't have it, that's okay. I have one written up here on the board for you. So first of all, what is a circle of fifths, or some of you call it circle of fourths sheet? Here's what it is. If we start on C and we go clockwise or to the right, as we move from one letter to the next, we are moving a fifth away. So G, one way to think of this is G would be the fifth of C. So if you think C, D, E, F, G is a fifth away. Then from G to D, well, if we put one for G, we have G, A, B, C. D is a fifth away from G. So on and so forth as you go around. Conversely, as we go counterclockwise, it's the fourths away. So if we start on C and go to F, stepwise, C, D, E, F then is a fourth away. From F to B flat, F, G, A, B flat is a fourth. So some people like circle of fifths, some people like circle of fourths. It's just kind of a way to organize some things. So it's really how you can practice circle of fifths or circle of fourths, or do both. It's whatever most comfortable for you. So inside then the letters, then that first wedge, you have the key signature that goes along with that major scale. So for instance, key of C has nothing in there, so there are no sharps or flats in the key of C. For G, you would have, it says one sharp. So then we can utilize our order of flats or order of sharps, and we know that if we have one sharp, it would be the first sharp in the order, which would be F sharp. With the order of sharps and flats, you're going to go from left to right. You're always going to start the very most left and go and add or go however many sharps or flats that you have. So for instance, if we're in the key of D, we have two sharps. So the sharps in the key of D then would be F sharp and C sharp. Flats works the same way. Let's say we're in the key of E flat. Well, E flat says that we have three flats, so we find our order of flats. We have B flat, E flat, and A flat. So that's just a quick rundown of how to read that sheet. The other part of that sheet, what we're going to combine with it, is your knowledge of the alphabet. And more specifically than the alphabet, the musical alphabet. So we know that our musical alphabet uses the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then it repeats over and over after that. So by utilizing our knowledge of the alphabet and using this circle of fifths sheet along with the key signatures, we can learn all of our major scales really quite easily. So let me demonstrate. We'll start with the easiest one, the key of C. So all of the letters of the musical alphabet are present in the major scales. And as we move up the scale, we ascend the scale, it's like we're moving forward through the alphabet. As we come back down the scale or descend the scale, it's like we're going backwards through the alphabet. So for C, then we're going to start obviously on C. The next letter would be D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we're back to C. Okay? And then to go backwards, we're on C, we go back down to B, A, G, F, E, D, C. All I did was follow the musical alphabet one letter at a time, up and down, or forwards and backwards. Now, The key of C, since it has no sharps or flats, we didn't make any changes to any of the notes. We didn't flat or sharp any of the notes. So now let's pick a key. Let's do the key of G, for instance. Now all of a sudden, if we take a look, we have one sharp in our key signature. So we go to our order of sharps, and we can see that we have F sharp as our one sharp. So now our G major scale is going to start on, obviously, on G. The next, if we follow the alphabet, the next note after G would be A, B, C, D, E. Then when we get to F, it's going to be F sharp, and then the next letter after F sharp would be G. That would be ascending the scale, and then descending, we'd go backwards. So if we're on G, we'd go backwards to F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, and then G. Okay? So you can apply that method to any of the major scales on the circle of fifths or circle of fourths. Let's pick a more challenging one, shall we? Let's take the key, since we're saxophonists, I know we don't like flats. So let's take the key of A flat, or A flat major scale. So if we take a look and find where A flat is, you can see that there are 4 flats. So our A flat major scale is going to start on A flat, and we're going to move one letter at a time until we get up to A flat, and then backwards, going back down to A flat. And our 4 flats will be B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. So when we say those letters, it's going to be with a flat. All of the other letters are just natural. So first note of our A flat major scale obviously is A flat. Second note would be B flat. Third note, following the alphabet, C. Follow the alphabet. Fourth note, we'd have D flat. Fifth note would be E flat. Sixth note we get to F. Seventh note is G, and then we are up to A flat. We go then in reverse, back down, G, F, E flat, D flat, C, B flat, A flat. So then I'm just combining my alphabet and my knowledge of the key signatures to create my major scales. So that's a really good way to think about your major scales. When I was your age and I was learning these scales for like maybe chair placement or honor band auditions, I would try to memorize, just simply memorize by playing them off a sheet. Once I ran across this method, I learned them a lot more quickly because I knew the alphabet. Let's face it, we've been saying our alphabet since we were probably 2 or 3 years old. So it's just a way of combining 2 different things to put it together rather than just trying to memorize something off a sheet of paper. If you're practicing it, let's say we're starting on C and we're going around the circle of fifths way, the reason that's a nice way to practice is it's organized and it helps you memorize more quickly as well, just because you're being organized about your practice. The same could be said if you go the other way, the circle of fourths, you're still being organized about your practice. So a sequence to learn your major scales, can you just simply say it like we just did? The next step would be, can you say it and finger along with it at the same time on your instrument? And when you're saying it and you're saying it and fingering, you want to get to the point where you don't have any sort of like hiccups or pauses. You want to be able to just one note right after the next. And then the last, then apply it to your instrument and go ahead and play it. Okay? You'll notice as we get more to the bottom of the circle, that's when it becomes more challenging. We have more flats or more sharps. So don't avoid the bottom of the circle. Stay true to the method. I think you'll be surprised that it's not as challenging as you may think it is. The reason it's challenging is because we simply don't play in those keys as much in band, or we don't play those scales as often as we probably should. So don't avoid the bottom of the circle. The next step along this process is we're going to add this thing called scale degrees. You probably noticed when we were talking through these scales, I was using numbers with my fingers, and so we're going to apply those numbers here real easily. So if we take our G major scale, we'll use that for example. So if I draw it out here, we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. So all we're going to do for scale degrees is we're going to put numbers and that correlate to that note's position in the scale. So G is obviously the first note, so it gets the number 1. A would be the second note, so it's number 2. B is the third note, 3. C is 4. D is 5. E is 6. F sharp is 7, and then we're back to G. We can call that 8 or 1 for now. So that's simply just what we call scale degrees, and you can do that with any scale. And scale degrees are really important because they allow us to transpose. You could play, if you can think a melody maybe in numbers, then you could, well, I could play it in the key of G. Well, I could take those same numbers and apply it to the key of C or the key of A or whatever key you want to play in. The other benefit of learning your scale degrees or understanding how scale degrees function is we can easily figure out chord tones, or we can apply it, we can maybe change it a little bit, make some modifications, and come up with some other scales by understanding that formula. So scale degrees are really important. So jumping ahead then to chord tones. When we're talking chords, typically we're talking about the root, the third, the fifth, and if it's a seventh chord, it's the seventh. So by understanding your scale degrees, and if I know that my major scale, my G major scale there, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, if I want my G major seventh chord, I'm going to pull out scale degrees 1, 3, 5, and 7, which would be G, B, D, and F sharp. We could do, let's do this to one more key. Let's do this now to the key of, F. So using our circle here, key of F, we have 1 flat, and so using our order of flats, it's B flat. So we'll just follow the alphabet. So the first note is F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F. If we put numbers to it then, our scale degrees, F now would be 1, G is 2, A is 3, B flat is 4, C is 5, D is 6, E is 7, and then we're back to F, 8, or you can think 1. So then, like I said before, if we want our F major 7th chord notes out of there, we would end up with our root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. So we end up with F, A, C, and E. You'll notice it's every other note, 1, 3, 5, and 7. So that's how we can utilize our scale degrees to pull out our major 7th chord tones. If you're ever talking about what are your notes to your D major 7th chord, you could think your D major scale and then pull out the root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. Okay? So the last thing that I want to talk about is, okay, I understand I know some of my major scales, I'm starting to understand how to pull chord tones out of this, but how do I practice this to make myself a better jazz player? So one of the things that I did when I was younger was in my practice, I would practice my scales up and down in a swing 8th note style using what I call offbeat tonguing. So what that is if I draw out here, let's draw out G major. What I would do is I would end up tonguing the ands of the beat like this. So on and so forth, all the way down to the bottom of the scale. So what I end up with, I'll play an example for you here. When I play this scale, it sounds like this. And then I would also apply that then, and immediately right after that play my major 7th chord, so my G major 7th chord. So the reason for that is one of the things that I hear a lot out of a lot of young middle school jazz musicians when they get up to solo is oftentimes they'll play the right notes, but the thing that they're lacking is jazz style. And so if you start to play these scales and arpeggios, using that offbeat tonguing, it's going to help you with your style when you go to create a solo. It just becomes kind of like second nature to you. So what I would do, I'm going to start and follow this circle of fifths. I'm going to start, and I'm going to do one octave for right now. We'll start with C and make our way around. So here would be a practice routine for me. So I'm going to play my C major scale with the offbeat tonguing, and then my C major seventh arpeggio right after that. Then I move on to G. Then on to D. And so on and so forth. And after a while, I could blitz through the entire circle, and I was, working on my articulation and my style all at the same time, while thinking through some of that theory stuff. So I would encourage you to try this. Start, you can start anywhere that you want on the circle, but make yourself go kind of one step at a time, or one notch of the circle at a time. Don't avoid the bottom, and practice it in that jazz style. Now, an even better way to do this is maybe put a metronome on slowly, so maybe it clicks on 2 and 4, or even every beat. But the idea is that I'm working that nice legato swung 8th note style, using that offbeat tonguing to help me with that. So we've kind of reached the end of part 1, and here's what I want you to do before you view part 2. If you're an alto saxophone player, I want you to be able to play at least C, G, D, and A major scales and major 7th chords. Okay? If you're tenors, I want you to be able to play at least F, C, G, and D major scales and major 7th arpeggios. By being able to do that, you'll be ready kind of for part 2 and then part 3. If you can do more than that, by all means, go for it, and you should go for it. But as we go forward, if you can do that, then you can kind of keep with me here. So, happy practicing, and I look forward to seeing you for part 2, where we take a dive into the world of Mixolydian scales, Dorian scales, dominant 7th chords, and minor 7th chords. We'll see you in a bit.